Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Whitfield Report, broadcasting live from NGC Studios at youtube.com/the Whitfield Report. Also, broadcasting live on unsamarized.tv as OJ's White Bronco points out in the chat. 072 you all. So far we have OJ and Irrational Times in the chat. So I want to thank everyone too who is lurking in the in the stream too. We have we have Nirai in the chat too. I know we have some lurkers probably watching as well. And of course, to all of you who are listening to this later on the podcast on Sunday, welcome to you as well. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Contact info as usual. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @70_NGC. Follow me on Minds and Gab at Sam Whitfield. Facebook.com/Whitfield Report. TheSamWhitfield.com is my web address, and yeah, you can also support the show by going to streamlabs.com/the Whitfield Report if you want to send me a donation. I will be getting the text to speech feature set up here too for this program, for this software I should say, and anchor.fm/Whitfield Report if you want to donate monthly. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so, welcome to the Saturday show, and cancel culture is officially canceled. Last week I did a audio podcast, entitled Why Comedy Will Save America, in which I reviewed, Dave Chappelle's special and Bill Burr's special, and I talked how basically the outrage that social justice warriors and their ilk have against like stand-up comedy. That's why ordinary sane people voted for someone like Trump, who was a complete troll and just trolled the left into oblivion. And, he's been a pretty great president overall, but that's what happens when you force political correctness and all this clown world culture, onto America. We're going to vote a no nonsense, un-PC, dude, which is what we did with Trump. Well, the culture war has continued. Obviously, the left a couple of years ago, they tried to shut down Louis C.K. And, as most of you know, Louis is one of my favorite, comedians. Not just in terms of, like, his material, but also, as I mentioned, in terms of the way he films his, specials and whatnot. And I guess Louis has been on tour as of late, getting back out there in the comedy scene, and the audiences love him, but the official critics are not too happy that he's back at all, not at all. So there was an article from the Chicago Tribune that I want to read here, and this is. Let me see if I can get rid of the pop-up. See, this is why I hate going to news websites too. Is there are endless amounts of pop-ups here, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Alright. So this comes from the folks at the Chicago Tribune. Review. Louis C.K. makes no apologies in his run of shows at Rosemont. We weren't even allowed to take a note. By this schmuck, Zach Freeman. I don't know, maybe he's not a schmuck, but from his byline, it sure seems like he's doing an awful lot of, whining from his headline there. Anyone expecting an apology or remorse from comedian Louis C.K. regarding his widely reported sexual misconduct, first reported in the New York Times in November of 2017, will have to keep looking. He avoided apologizing in the statement he issued in the wake of the original story 2 years ago, which I'm pretty sure he did apologize. You know, he said, "I'm sorry if I offended any of the ladies coming forward." So he did apologize. So that's a lie. But anyway, he avoided apologizing in the statement he issued in the wake of the original story 2 years ago. False, as I just covered. And in his late set Thursday night at Zany's in Rosemont, I've been to Chicago, but I've never been there before. The second of 6 shows over the 3 days that were quietly announced and quickly sold out early this week, he seemed to be working to reframe himself as the victim. Which, given the fact that he was part of like a big witch hunt, ladies and gentlemen, he kind of was, I would say. At times during his show, he almost reveled in the shame, claiming everyone in the audience has a thing that they do sexually that would be embarrassing if anyone found out, and how privileged we are that unlike for him, no one knows what it is. Okay, now if you read that just as like an ordinary reader, obviously that sounds like a kind of like a dick thing to say, pardon the pun. But if you read that statement in Louis' voice as I did, it's hilarious. He makes jokes and critiques about society like that all the time, so that's actually funny. His own culpability in the reports of him masturbating in front of women were unmentioned. Why does he need to bring that up? Everyone knows what he did. Instead, he put the focus squarely on how he has been affected by the thought. He used to play arenas, he noted at one point with a cynical laugh, reminding the audience how lucky they were to see him in such an intimate space. Was that the point, or are you self-projecting there, Mr. Zach? But he doesn't want anyone quoting him on that. On top of that, the use of a Yonder case to keep everyone's phones locked up throughout the course of the show, which is something that a number of comics have begun doing in the last few years to avoid leaked recordings of their stuff getting out. This show came with an additional disclosure that I've never seen before. Recording of any kind, including note-taking, is not permitted in the showroom. You'll be asked to leave. Yeah, and exactly. There's a reason for that. It's not to silence the press. It's to keep people from stealing bits and new materials. See, I'm not even a comedian, but unlike the guy writing this article, I have friends who have done comedy before. And the way that this whole game tends to work, from what I understand as a comedy enthusiast myself, is you come up with material, you test it out at a club. If it works, you start, performing that material at clubs. You go on tour if you get really big, and then you film a special every year or so, and then you start the whole thing over. Now, as you get like more and more popular, some comics do like, they recycle bits sometimes when they're on tour. It's kind of like how different bands have, songs that they play, their greatest hits. But comics don't want people taking notes or recording because they don't want their material stolen. That's pretty much it. Okay. Continuing on, I tested the waters during one of the opening acts by using a pencil to write down the comic's name. Mike Earley, by the way, on a comment card at the table, and someone quickly approached me, pointed and said, there's no writing during the show. Again, this guy who approached this journalist probably thinks that, he didn't know that this guy was a journalist. He could have just, been a guy trying to steal an act. Okay. At one point, CK talked how we expect cripples to be happy with their situation, but notes that if he lost his legs, he'd never be happy. 10 years after losing his legs, he wouldn't move on, he asserted. He'd still be complaining how he wished he still had legs. It's not a huge jump to make a connection to see how Lucy K sees himself as the victim in all this. Claiming how he lost $35 million in an hour when the story came out, and that he's still upset about that loss. Well, I mean, wouldn't you be if you lost $35 million in an hour? Well, first of all, like that's an amount of money that I can't even comprehend, having. But if I had $35 million, and then I lost, if I had $35 million if I had $35 million at all at one point in my life, I would be, that would be awesome. That would be thrilling. And then to lose all of that in less than an hour, geez, I really could understand personally, ladies and gentlemen, why people would be upset. Later on, he spent a good amount of time breaking down the R word. That would be retard, ladies and gentlemen. Or, as I like to say, as I like to say, Owen Benjamin. So, noting that when he was growing up in the 1970s, it was the correct word to use. He claims no mentally disabled people have ever been offended by it, which is actually true, by the way, in my experience. Most people who are legitimately mental retardation, they're not offended by it, unless someone is purposely being mean by using it, then that's one thing. But most, I don't get offended by the word cripple at all, and I'm in a wheelchair. It doesn't offend me, but okay. Getting back to the article, his central conceit here seems to be the increasingly common refrain, of many comedians that people are ready to be outraged about the things that don't affect them personally. Which, brilliant observation here, there, Mr. Journalist. And, yeah, that is kind of Louis' point, believe it or not. I know it may be hard for some of you guys to, grasp this, but people are actually, okay with comedy. We don't all live with a stick up our ass. Okay. And finally, towards the end of his set, he said that, well, he's glad that homosexuality has become more acceptable in society as well. He wonders if there are any gay people who are actually upset by this acceptance. Positing that part of the enjoyment they felt was in engaging in behavior others saw as bad or wrong, and considering whether they even enjoyed being gay anymore if it's not a secret. So, breaking off from this article, ladies and gentlemen, I have to wonder here regarding this gay bit that Louis doing on homosexuality. I have to wonder if Louis has been watching Milo videos on YouTube during his time off, because that seems to be a this seems to be a common refrain that Milo has been saying for a while. The fact that, part of being gay was the mystique of being bad. So just back to this journalist bitching constantly. This bit of pondering felt like his biggest confession of the night, even without a direct mention of his own predilections, serving as a direct rebuke to the claim that he didn't know what he was doing was wrong, as he thought. The wrongness of it was the point. Mixed in with some jokes that seemed vulgar just for vulgarity's sake, he had plenty of what could be considered classic Louis C.K. material, quote-unquote round classic. Stuff that pushes what's generally acceptable to joke about while attempting to make a point in the process, including a few jokes about his mom dying. These jokes are still rough, he made clear because his mom just died in June. Okay, this is my favorite part of the article. But can Louis C.K., on an unpublicized, downright furtive tour of the country, work with the same level of nuanced material as the theater-packing comedian of pre-2017? And more importantly, does he have an audience that wants him to? To answer your first question there, Mr. Journo Man, I would say, fuck yeah. People want to see Louis. Many in the audience Thursday night seemed happy just to clap anytime he said something off color. Of course, because that's Louis' whole shtick. That's been his shtick for 20 years. Or closer to 30 years, ever since he's done, comedy. He's in the same league of edge comics as George Carlin. But he lost his train of thought at one point, wondering out loud what he had been trying at when an audience member yelled, "Baby rape." This was, in fact, a technically accurate response in regards to what CK had been talking about. But for a moment, CK looked surprised and a bit chagrined by the interaction. It reminded me of Dave Chappelle telling Maya Angelou on the show, Iconoclast, that he quit Chappelle's show because he didn't like the way someone laughed at a particular sketch. In that moment, CK seemed to be faced with the awkward fervor of someone clearly too ecstatic about the surface level horror of his subject matter. And if only for a blink, he seemed completely turned off by it. But then he took a drink from his cup and pushed on. I don't even get what bit this guy writing this article is talking about here, though. Nowhere in the article does it say that CK was joking about baby rape, but anyway, let's speaking of pushing on, let's push on through this article. We live in a world where everyone wants their feelings heard. The guy next to me told me adamantly before his show when I asked if he thought CK would address his sexual misconduct. Well, I hope he doesn't apologize. The guy and audience members like him are certainly getting what they're looking for out of Louis CK's current tour. I wonder if Louis is. So this guy who wrote the article, this Zach Freeman guy, he's not even an actual reporter for the Chicago Tribune. He's a freelancer. And it does indeed seem like he was going on a fishing trip there, to try and, get outraged about Louis' special. At any rate, though, before I go on to, before I, give some reaction, let me look through some of the comments. All hail Sam, king of the Gravelers. Well, I mean, I do like Dennis Prager, so I guess you're right. OJ. So this journalist totally could be asked. But Sam should try to restream to restream.io and broadcast on DLive and Twitch as well. Yeah, Kick Boy. I was using Restream for a while when I first started doing YouTube live streaming. I probably will start using it at one point. It was really buggy though, like last year when I started using it. But yeah, I'll get on DLive. So Evil Eric. Sam has 0 friends on Friendstar. Oh man, that is an old reference. Friendstar is. So OJ's right wrong. Says I follow Sam in an all black jogging suit. why is the serial killer here? Good question. I have no idea why why bears here, but I'm happy that I'm happy that you're here nonetheless because I have some more videos to play. So actually, I haven't. What am I talking? I haven't played any video. So as I was saying, so there's a pushback against all this PC, you know, outrage culture in comedy, which is good. Bill Burr's doing it, Louis doing it, which is good. Yeah, I know, Niraya. So, but anyway. In regards to the whole Louis C.K. thing, I do want to take people on like a brief flashback real quick, because Bill Burr about like 2 years ago did a really damn good job, in my opinion, of basically summing up, what the whole Louis C.K. situation, how it was going to turn into a witch hunt. So I'm not going to play the whole part of this, but this is basically Bill Burr's take on the whole Louis situation, and I think it's pretty spot on. I'll break it down. This is from 2 years ago after it happened. So video number 1. This is Bill Burr talks about Louis C.K.'s misconduct. Clip number 1, go.
Working at the West Side Comedy Club. You got to go there. Some old friends of mine opened the place up. That's why I did it. I had the best time. And what was really cool is it was mostly, podcast listeners. So I could say whatever the fuck I thought, essentially, in these times. You know what I mean? Everything that's going on. I heard like those fucking people were going down to the Comedy Cellar and then writing down what other comics were saying about Louis C.K. and all of that type of stuff. It's just so fucking, it's such a crazy time right now. I don't know. I love Louis C.K. and that was really obviously just a fucking hard thing to see happen to somebody. And he was definitely 100% wrong. I'll just say this. He was 100% wrong. He did own up to it, and I think he will definitely be back. I will say that. And I also knew a couple of the women that he did this shit to, and I just feel bad for everybody. It's just fucking terrible. And I don't know. I don't know what else you say about it. I feel like I'm in a divorce where both the mom and the dad, and you got to like pick a fucking side here. I don't know. All I think that just this new thing though is like the level of witch hunt that happened when the Louis thing came out. Like the amount of fucking people that they went after was just fucking. It was like 6 degrees of Louis' dick. To the point that even the fucking Huffington Post was even trying to list people, that clients of the same manager that he had and stuff. Who, by the way, is one of the great people I've ever met in life. I stand by my fucking manager, and I'm never firing the guy. I've been with this guy since 2006. Dave Becky's one of the great people that I've met in this business. I love that guy. I'd still have him over my house for fucking dinner. Watching everybody I think I remember this happening 15 fucking years ago, and then watching everybody try to burn down this guy's life. It's just fucking ridiculous.
Okay, so this is the main point that I wanted to go off on as well. People are going after in the SJW crowd. People are going after Louis' manager, Dave Becky.
This is America.
That's a weird shot of Bill Burr to pause on. by the way, but I've got to get this out real quick. The fact that like people are coming after the the manager of Louis and like I guess Bill Burr's manager, and saying like all this shit about Louis, and all this stuff is pretty interesting. It's like the manager wasn't responsible for Louis' faults, but as always, it's guilt by association with the far left and with the SJWs. So what are you gonna do?
Ever due process? Like the whole thing is just like, it's fucking insane. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going after Louis C.K.'s mailman, saying if you deliver his mail, you're part of the problem. And it doesn't seem to be like there's any sort of like, in the judicial system where there's like, if you steal a bike, you get this sentence. If you rob a bank, you get this. If you kill somebody, if you kill a whole bunch of people, all the way up to the death penalty. Yeah, this kind of seems like it's become, it doesn't make a difference if it's sexual misconduct all the way to sexual assault / rape. You're getting the exact same like level of punishment. So that's only my question, okay, out of all of this, because he was definitely wrong. Obviously, I mean, it's all obvious shit that I'm saying, but does the punishment match the crime? Because sexual misconduct. When you talk of sexual misconduct, like I don't know how many podcasts I would have to do to tell you all the stories of sexual misconduct with just women. As a stand-up comedian who used to go out after his shows, selling his posters and all, and taking pictures with you, just the fucking women, okay? And I'll tell you, it was never any of the young ones. It was always these middle-aged fucking women, couple glasses of red wine. Oh, God, and they come at you with their va-va-va-boom energy, and you'd be like, oh, no, here we go. That's my advice. Young male comics out there, young female comics, there's plenty of information out there for you now about watching out for creepy guys. But I don't think there's anything out there for young male comics. I will tell you this, okay? If you're going to go out and meet a crowd afterwards, when middle-aged women, you can tell they've had too much wine beyond the fact that they're sort of teetering on their high-heel shoes with their old feet sticking out of them. You just look for the gray teeth, all right? And a little bit too much makeup. And then, they got the girls out a little bit. Just fucking watch yourself, okay? Because that's the old cheerleader who is not aging well and is freaking out that guys don't, find her attractive anymore.
Okay, and by the way, I have to say that from what I've heard from some of my friends who are, opening acts, some who are, still in Denver. I have a few friends actually who I went to high school with, who are now comedians, and granted they're like in their first or second year, but yeah. I mean, they're in their mid-20s, they're like my age, they're 24, 25, and, they've told me that, like, aside from, some of, like, aside from, like, the girls that we went to high school with who are just coming out there to support them, like, all the ones that are actually, like, hitting on them are all like, the middle-aged soccer moms too. So yeah, everything Bill is saying about that is spot on.
And I'm telling you, they're going to come up to you, like, cover your junk. That's all I'm going to say. Dude, I had a woman lick my neck one time, and I'll tell you, worse than the touch of her tongue, her old ass, disgusting wine breath tongue on my fucking neck.
By the way, for those of you in the chat, yeah, Wawa is a gas station, and it's pretty damn good. But with that being said, I also have stories about Wawa that I might have to share in like another podcast down the road, maybe when we're doing like a free-for-all stream.
Than that was I felt her breath right before the eagle landed. I will, gee. Oh, and forget about gay guys. Jesus Christ. I could do another half podcast on that one. We're just talking about sexual misconduct. I always wanted to rub your chest. The fuck did you just do? I remember one time, and this is the thing about a guy. When it happens to a guy, it's just funny. Just for the simple fact that, generally speaking, you can overpower whoever the fuck is coming at you. I'm not a little boy. So I get why nobody gives a shit when this happens to a guy. I get it. I remember I was dating this absolutely lovely woman, beautiful woman. She danced on Broadway. She was such a sweetheart. I loved her to death, and I completely fucked it up because I was an angry young man. So I'm sorry to her, right? So she was dancing in this thing called Broadway Bears, which was like they used to do this thing to raise money. It was like a burlesque show. So it wasn't like this creepy titty bar thing. It was just, if you ever go to a burlesque show, which my wife took me to one to see that Dita Von Teese, I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? She's going to take me down here to go see, basically go to a rated PG-13 strip club? I have the coolest wife ever. And then I got down there, and I think I was the only straight guy there. And it was like mostly gay guys, right? And that's what this Broadway.
Quick question there, Billy. Was Owen Benjamin there by chance? Just have to ask.
Bears thing was it? It wasn't like the creepy Hooters vibe. So it's actually better if there's a bunch of gay dudes there, because I always did that whole, I like Hooters, strip clubs, titty bars, and all.
Hooters is not creepy.
Shit, it's just like.
How dare you, sir?
That's something that's like fascinating when you're like in your 20s, I think. And then somewhere, if you're progressing, if you're maturing, at some point it just becomes gross, or at the very least, like, this is fucking stupid. I want to go out and get laid. I'm going to sit here looking at naked women who aren't going to fuck me. This is stupid. While losing a ton of money, paying for watered down drinks. What? No, I don't want to eat in here. You're in the sex industry. Get away from me. I want to order some food, right? So I go down to this Broadway Bears thing, right? And so all the gay guys are going nuts about the dudes.
Well, it had the name Bear in it, so I'm thinking that does answer our question of whether or not Owen was there, right? Because it was named Broadway Bears, and Owen is head of the Unbearables. So we know. And by the way, QAnon Bear, you know what that makes you. So then.
I'm looking at all these women going like, oh my God, right? Fucking dancer legs. They were incredible, right? Oh, by the way, they also were really talented. Right? So the fucking show ends. And I'm waiting for my girlfriend at the time to come out. And this fucking, out of nowhere, this guy came up and just smacked me on the ass. And it wasn't like it was like if you were playing football, it was good game. But at that place, it wasn't. This guy wanted to fucking hook up with me. Dude, he hit me so hard, like I almost fucking got whiplash, and I fucking turned around, and I can't say what I said to the guy, but I made it clear to him that I wasn't gay, and I'll never forget, he just like put his hands up and was like backing away, and I remember when he put his hands up, the dude had these fucking guns, and I was just like, I don't know what this guy's thinking right now, but if he wanted to do something, I don't know if there's anything I could do about it. I'll never forget his big, hairy, gay arms just coming out. Oh, I'm sorry, I just fucking... No, he didn't even talk like that. I'm doing like the hacky gay voice. He had just like a regular dude voice. And, oh, dude, I got a zillion of those fucking stories. If we're talking sexual misconduct here. And And you know what's funny? Is the reason I stopped going out after my shows wasn't all of those fucking witches of Eastwick drunk bitches coming up to me doing God knows what, right? Just crossing all kinds of fucking lines. Like you're literally like you're a cartoon character. What made me finally stop was that time the guy went to take the camera out to take the picture of his girlfriend or wife, and a loaded 9mm fell on the fucking ground. And it was right on the ground, and I should have kicked it away, you know? All the episodes of Starsky and Hutch I watched, I didn't. I just froze. I pointed at the gun, and I went, dude, what the fuck? And I let him bend down and pick it up, and I just stood there. I've never felt more white in my life. You know what I mean? Just classic cul-de-sac, like, hey, Frank, I believe you dropped your pistol. Thanks, Bill. Blows my fucking brains out. Oh, you hear that? That's my alarm. I got up a little early. So anyways, people, I think it's a great thing that all of this stuff is coming out, because there's no way that women should have to be tolerating this. They've tolerated.
All right. I can't remember where it is in this clip. Maybe I already passed, but there is a part in this clip where basically Bill Burr says it's ridiculous that like Louis is getting shoved in the same category as like Harvey Weinstein, or specifically that like everyone from Aziz Ansari to Louis C.K. who are doing like minor infractions. Basically, like everyone is Harvey Weinstein now in the eyes of the Me Too movement, and that's what the Me Too movement basically started as. It started off with a good cause, like trying to like out Harvey Weinstein and expose like all his misdeeds, which people in Hollywood also knew what Harvey Weinstein was at. Like there were a lot of people who were coming, but come on. But you've got to but to say that like Louis and that like Louis C.K. and Aziz Ansari and like all these other comics, to say that they're in the same league as like Harvey Weinstein or Bill Cosby is ridiculous. It really is quite ridiculous. So now like Me Too gave way to the whole cancel culture thing too, and as I mentioned on last week's Thursday podcast, the fact that like a lot of people are pushing back against like the critics' reviews of Bill Burr's special and Dave Chappelle's special. Like as I said last week, the reviewers basically gave like Chappelle's special like a 0% rating, which is worse than Batman and Robin, like one of the worst superhero movies ever. That's what the critics gave it. The audience gave it 100%. So like now the critics are just like getting extremely sour and like trying to just ruin fun and ruin everything. And people are pushing back against it. So which is good. Now, on the other hand, if we're going to be fair, if we're going to look at the other side of this, okay, there are people out there who use comedy, quote unquote, not because they like to be funny, but because they simply want to be assholes and say racist shit out there. So and I think you all know who I'm talking about. And also, there are some people who want to use their comedy vehicles to kind of LARP in the political sector for a bit. So you guys know who I'm talking about by now if you're a regular of the program. You know I'm talking to Owen Benjamin. And I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on Owen here tonight, but at the same time, I've got to give a hand to Johnny Arcade here because, like, I still get emails every once in a while, like tweets from Unbearables who are like, "Hey man, I like your show, but why are you going after Owen? Like, he's a conservative. He's just like you. He's just a funny guy, like trying to do conservative stuff." And oh really? Well then, how do you explain this clip from less than a year ago? From like just over like a little bit of like a year and a quarter. So this was Owen just like a couple weeks before the 2016 election, when he was full on lib. So this is from my boy Johnny Arcade. So thanks Johnny, very cool.
I'm not a Trump supporter. Eric writes, "Hoorah, kill." Eric Nimmer, who of course is open for me a lot on the road. He's a Marine vet. Awesome dude. He's somewhat being.
Yeah, well, we all know how that story turned out, right, guys? Oh, this is yeah.
And sarcastic there, but also serious. That's why I love him so much. You never really know where he stands on anything. Like he has killed people and yelled "rah." I've always considered myself left wing, as much as I am for gay rights, pro-choice, everything under the sun that is American. And I think we know that all of these things are American. That if a woman has a right to choose over her body, she should. Whether or not you agree with abortion or not, that is.
So this is quite revealing too, because Eric Nimmer, for those of you who have been living under a rock, although I don't know why this audience would be, but Nimmer was opening for Owen on the road for longer than I thought, I guess. But and the Bears have been like saying for years that like Owen's a conservative, and they were saying at one point that Nimmer was like a black conservative too. But now clearly we're seeing that neither of them ever were necessarily.
The DNA of American. And Trump isn't. There is a misconception that women are these frail does just waiting for the right man to give them all the respect they need so that they can finally feel free. No, there's women that want to fuck and then they want the dude to leave. Because they don't want a relationship at that moment. Down the line they will or not, but they just don't. I've never ever run into like stalkers or women trying to ruin my life, ever. Because like when you engage in honest interaction, it doesn't happen. Even with all that said, there's still people that would say, Owen Benjamin, that is misogynistic. That is woman-hating. Only a man who hates women sleeps with so many of them without telling them they love them or buying them a dog or sending them to school. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, Evil Eric in the chat goes, Nimmer never claimed to be a conservative. I know that Nimmer never claimed to be a conservative. I do know that. I'm not saying Nimmer claimed to be conservative, but I'm saying that there were others in the Bears who at the time were saying that Nimmer was a conservative. At least some of them at least some of the ones I interacted with. But again, I mean, I was only there for maybe just over like 95 days. I don't even think it was like a full 100 days before the, before the shit hit the fan.
That is misogyny. That is making women out to be these little sheep that need corralling, and they're not.
But I get why people want the wall, and the irony is there's a zero influx of Mexicans. There isn't even a Mexican problem. That's all bullshit.
Yes.
There's less Mexicans coming to America than Mexicans leaving America right now. That is a fact.
Also, who wants the jobs the Mexicans have? The white people don't want the jobs that the Mexicans have. They're picking oranges and they're cleaning hotel rooms.
America's based on immigrants. We have to have strong immigration. That's why.
So this is Owen from like back in 2016 or 2015, I guess, on like a conference call with his mom, and this was back when they were both, like out and proud liberals, and they were, doing the stereotype of like, well, Americans don't want to do, the hard jobs that Hispanics will. They were using that liberal talking in deep down. I mean, I think Owen probably still does believe it somewhat. So
we're strong because the immigrant class always comes in with fucking chutzpah. They got, they have fire. They come in, they work their ass off, then they become lazy fucking cunts like me.
But
fifth generation.
Trump wants to eliminate immigrants.
Well, no, Trump wants to have power. He's a sociopath, and there's people that have blood and.
It's very interesting that Owen is saying in this old clip that, Trump is a sociopath and, that all Trump wants is power. Considering that that Big Bear is, ban happy. I think there's a little bit of self-projection there.
Here's vested in the dirt they live on. And those people don't understand how a nation is no longer a nation. And that, some of these Hillary emails that are just basic discourse between politicians. No smoking gun.
Right.
But the fear is, things like globalization of the world, like no borders, no citizenry. And everyone's like, oh, that's fucking bigotry. It's like, that's like saying if you like the Buffalo Bills and hate.
So Owen was a Hillary guy as well. Now, this goes back to my point that, now John Arcade, and by the way, please subscribe to Johnny. He's doing great work. Johnny Arcade 2. It's obvious that, Owen, was never a conservative. He just, he wasn't then, and now, I mean, he's still starting to regress back to liberalism. Now he's just using comedy as an excuse to say racist stuff. Right? So, and by the way, I am, here is a link to Johnny's channel in the chat. I know that most of you guys, I mean, Johnny's got more subscribers than I do, but hey, if you're new here and you want to sub to Johnny, there you go. There's the link. So I want to play a couple more videos from Johnny just to illustrate that, Owen is like a perfect example of a guy who, on the flip side of, like we have Louis C.K. who was doing legit comedy and, getting torn down from the left or right, but then we have Owen Benjamin who just wants to say like extreme stuff and pass it off as comedy, right? So let's use an example. So, this is one of Owen's song parodies, quote unquote, and Owen calls this comedy.
Alex Jones is torn, he's got tranny porn, he wants to blame it on China. Don't you mourn all the losses from the Jews, but he's got clues about China comes, he's got a boner pill. Are you ill? Is your dick ill? Take his boner pill, he's got a promo code, and a son named Alex who's a homo. The frogs are gay, say yay. Yeah. Doing yay, frogs are gay. He's got a son named Rex. Runs his mouth on Twitter. Shitter, the guy's a retard. His neck is sweaty. Knees weak, nickels are heavy. He's got his tranny porn on ready. He's a Jew on the surface, but he says he's Christian. Yeah. He says he hates Joe. He's a schmo, a homo, but he loves him. He goes and rubs his Slim Jim for money. Honey, wanting the nickels. He's got shekels weighing down his pants to his ankles, yo. He's selling boner pills. He's a shill. He's got a son named Rex who wants to kill me. Cause I'm not a shill like his dad who's got a sweaty neck. Alex Jones. Says Saudi's own Hollywood, not the Jews. He's got Blues Clues, and he's got the blues because he watches tranny porn. He is torn. I can't keep riffing right now. That kind of freestyle feeds my soul. Hey, buddy. That's catchy. Teeny porn on ready. That's heady. Now, please email me.
So, yeah. So he basically, Owen's kid walked in. That's why he stopped so abruptly there. But anyway, how was that funny? Like, I legitimately want to know. How was that funny at all? It's not. So. Yeah. That's weird. I guess I actually do have camera settings in this program here. Okay, there we go. By the way, I am going to be getting a new webcam here at some point. I just don't know which one I'm going to get. This is a new microphone that I've had for a while now. So, yeah, that's Owen's piano writing skills, right? Is this funny? No. Okay, let's go to another one of Owen's bits from John Arcade. Shall we? Oh yeah, Near. I've been upgrading. This is a new microphone. The 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 bass I got is a little tall, but I mean I think the audio quality is a bit better than the one I had. So so let's see here. No, I don't want to play. I don't want to play. By the way, this is a guy who also claims to be like a piano genius, and yet he could barely play the 8 Mile riff well. Okay. Oh, so oh, so this is Owen's new thing too. So I've got to pull this up real quick too here. So let me pull up a new window on YouTube. So let me explain something to you guys too. What you guys have to understand is no, I'm not going to Vox Day you guys because I know that you guys are smart and you actually do get comedy somewhat. But okay, we got a perfect angle here now. What do you know? So I guess Owen's new thing is he's obsessed with the Grabbler bit from The Onion. So I want to go ahead and actually play that video for you guys. Onion Grabbler. Okay, so this is a bit from The Onion that's like 10 years old now, from the Onion News Network. Now, The Onion is like a political satire newspaper. So, yeah, this is an old Onion bit that from like 10 years ago that has somehow resurfaced, and Owen is now obsessed with this, and he now also thinks that he is the one who came up with this joke, even though no one had heard of him 10 years ago. So, anyway, and by the way, you gotta love The Onion. You just gotta. So this credit goes to The Onion, overcomes stress by visiting it as a greedy, hook-nosed race of creatures.
Later on in the hour, tips for stretching out your vagina without having a baby.
But first, in today's tough economic times, money stresses can really be overwhelming.
Yeah, but help is on the way. Author Christine Eckert is here to show us some exercises to reduce stress. Hi, Christine.
Good morning.
Hi, Jim and Tracy.
Christine, I'm so glad you're here. I'm about ready to snap.
She is.
The first thing we're going to learn about is problem visualization.
Okay.
It's a simple method for reducing stress by assigning an image to represent your anxiety.
Well, that sounds simple enough.
Okay, the first thing I like to do is imagine my money-related stress as the most disgusting, terrifying creature I can think of. I like to imagine an ugly, greasy little creature with a hooked nose and oily black hair.
Oh, he is scary.
I call him the Grabbler because he's a greedy little monster who wants to grabble up all my money. Now close your eyes and picture the Grabbler.
Okay, there he is.
Now think of all the problems your Grabbler is causing. He invented interest rates like the ones on your credit card. He's taking the jobs because Grabblers only hire their own kind.
I just want to get rid of
Now
him.
imagine the Grabbler slowly disintegrating like a pile of ashes blown away by a purifying wind. And now you're in a peaceful meadow full of lilies swaying in a gentle breeze. They're not scheming or trying to rob me.
How?
So yeah, that's the famous Graveler bit from The Onion, ladies and gentlemen. And for those of you who are listening to this on the podcast and haven't seen it, I do suggest going and watching this because it's hysterical to watch, honestly. Now, here's Owen Benjamin's interpretation of the Graveler bit. This is what Owen thinks the Graveler bit is, basically. Okay, check this crap out.
I love you guys for this journey, but there's no more Jew stuff. I'll still make fun of shit, but I've reached the core.
Pedophilia is just another sexuality. You have to be tolerant to all the sexualities. Pedophilia is just another sexuality. And what's next? Genocide? Let me tell you.
Okay, now, again, for those of you listening on the audio podcast, Owen is wearing like a Jew banker mask and, like rubbing his fingers together and doing like the worst Jew stereotype I've ever heard. It's not even funny. It's just like blatantly it's blatantly racist. Like the one thing on the Onion, the one thing on the Onion is the thing that's great about the Onion is like they never directly, say that it's the Jews, or they never directly, they never make the stereotype like blatantly obvious to the point where, it's like bashing people over the head with it. It's creative. It's, it's tactful. It's good satire. That is not good satire. So that's an example of, someone who's just being racist. So, and using comedy as a pretty, piss poor excuse for it, I think. But, that's the state of comedy. So, yeah. And, oddly enough, so like that's the thing that does drive me a bit crazy is, we have Louis C.K. who, has made some off-color jokes about his own sexuality, and who constantly makes fun of himself as much as anyone else. And, he's got to be silenced. His comedy is too vulgar. Now, granted, he's a lot bigger than Owen is, too, in terms of, like, fame. I get that part, too. But, Owen's not even doing comedy. He's just doing racist, stuff masquerading. And, there's a big difference. So, cancel culture is bad. But, at the same time, let's learn to, also recognize that, it's people like Owen who are giving the, excuse for cancel culture to exist, as well. So, anyway, good stand-up comedy will save America, as I said, last week. And, comedy like what Owen is doing will just be seen as hacky and, he's just digging himself into a bigger hole. So, yeah. So, I think that'll do it for, tonight's show then, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you all very much for, tuning into the program. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate each and one of you who has tuned in. From all of us here at NGC Studios, have a good night. God bless, and God save this great nation. I'll see you next week on the Whitfield Report. Until then, God bless, God save this great nation, and God freedom legacy. In that order, shout out to Mr. John Neary. Hey there, folks. If you've made it this far to the end of the podcast, I'd like to thank you very much for listening to the show. You are the ones that make it possible for me to make an income from podcasting, and I greatly appreciate that just by listening to our show. You are helping us gain ad revenue. However, if you would really like to help support the show, I encourage you to please donate to the podcast and become a supporter of the show. You can head over to anchor.fm/Whitfield Report and click the support this podcast button and choose the amount that suits you to support the show. Or you can click the link in the show notes and it will directly take you to that page. If you can support the podcast, I really, really appreciate that. Anything that you can do to help out is greatly appreciated. Even if you can't afford to help financially support the podcast, I encourage you to please go on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or Stitcher, and please leave this podcast a positive 5-star review. That really helps us out here at the Whitfield Report. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next episode.